couple of months ago, I made a video talking about some elder training videos that I hadn't seen in a very long time, and it was a good laugh looking back at some old school Jehovah's Witness training videos back from the days when I was a Jehovah's Witness. And now, 10 years later, we're going to actually look at some training videos that were provided to elders at their most recent elders training school thingy that they do. And it's a bit of a holler and a hoot as well this time around, even though the message and the overall tone of things is significantly different in how elders are being trained. But with all of that being said, let's jump right into it.
We warmly welcome you, dear brothers, to our Kingdom Ministry School. Since our last school, Satan's wicked system has continued to deteriorate. Wars, protests, and social issues are on the rise, and our brothers and sisters may feel under constant pressure to take sides in these matters.
So right off the bat, Staged Beagle here doesn't have any concept of how the world actually works. He describes people protesting or talking about social issues as deterioration. The world's deteriorating all around us, and oh man, we must feel like everything's going... Is it deterioration when we talk about social issues? Is it deterioration when there are protests, people actively trying to bring national or global awareness to specific problems that need to be changed? Brother, that is not deterioration, that is building. That is the foundation of progress. People start talking about it, enough people start caring about it, and when enough people start caring about it, we make change. Those things become, adjustments to law or whatever the case might be. So, no, that's not deterioration. That is the foundation of the building blocks of a better society. At least theoretically, that is. So these guys are so just out of touch with reality. It really blows me away how anyone can take them seriously. When he just opens his mouth for 1 second, you're like, that ain't right. Now, one thing I do, one reason I think that he does have this opinion about social issues or protesting or anything like that is that that's not allowed within the Jehovah's Witness world. There is no platform for you to be able to air your grievances and be taken seriously. Historically, if you have a problem with how the organization is run, or if you think that a change should be made, the only options are to write a letter to the governing body, and they'll say, thanks for your letter, but no, you're wrong, or to shut up and be silent about it. Or I guess option C is leave. Well, hey, the front door, the back door is over there, bucko. So you can just leave now and leave all your friends and family behind as well. So there's not really an avenue for someone to be able to talk about any issues without experiencing some type of ramification for doing that. So in his world, if he sees people protesting, in his paradigm, this would be the end of the organization. Oh man, imagine if Jehovah's Witnesses all banded together and said, no, we are not going to accept this blood policy anymore. We do not want to let our children die. Well, that would be chaos. That would be a deterioration of them. So I guess it deteriorates the standard, normal, we're going to do things the way we've always done things. Well, yeah, but those things need to be looked at and examined constantly. And we need to always be self-evaluating and seeing how we can build back a better world. But no, that never happens in the Jehovah's Witness world. It's just do what the governing body says and be happy. Now, I've made a judgment call here. This is an elders training video, and as you know, I like to make fun of the way elders talk because they have this obnoxiously slow way of conveying any random bits of information. They walk slow, put your arm on their shoulder, and really try and convey this phony sense of love and care that simply doesn't exist. Oh dear, it is exhausting to listen to. So we're actually going to just speed this up to like 1.5. Hopefully that's okay for most of you, but it'll most of the time sound like they're just talking like a regular normal person anyway, but it'll help us get through a lot of this information faster. So we're going to speed things up to the 1.5 zone.
This school will help you elders and ministerial servants improve in your ability to care for Jehovah's sheep in a skillful way. For example, a loving shepherd takes the lead in the field ministry. We'll highlight how we can improve in our ability to help those who are presently away from the congregation to return to Jehovah and to their loving spiritual family.
So this is a section that we are going to be talking about in this video. So we're going to focus in on this real problem for Watchtower. After COVID, people didn't want to go back to the normally scheduled program, the meetings, the service, the blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people just chose to listen in on Zoom or just click the button that they were listening in on Zoom and watch the sports game or something in the meantime. So we're going to focus in on how Watchtower is addressing one of the biggest problems that they have with the organization right now, and that is, what do you do with all the people that don't want to come back to the in-person meetings and stuff like that?
That brings us to Marcus and Paige Blanchard. They've been an actor for, 2 years now. But Cooper, you have an update, I think you mentioned.
I do. So you know how I've been reaching out to Marcus for months now with no response? Well, this week they finally returned my call. Yeah, and they've agreed to a visit.
All right, that's great.
That's great.
That is great news. Have you thought about who you'd like to take?
You know, Marcus and Paige are hurting right now, and I really think it would help for them to talk with someone who's been there. I'd like to take Scott.
What do you say, Scott?
I guess if the body agrees, I'd be happy to help.
And of course, we'll be praying for Jehovah's blessing for you both as you make that call. Let's move to the next point then, which is our CO visit in just over a month.
That's great. Marcus said it was all right to visit.
Here's what I'm thinking. So we could share Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11, and maybe share some points from this June 2020 study article. What do you think?
You know, I'd really like to share these references and these verses with Marcus and Paige. But most of all, I'd really like to just listen to them and see how they're doing.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we need to understand where they're at and how they got there.
Hey, do you mind if I ask? I mean, I know it's been years, but how did you get there?
So this is the introduction to our main character here, guy in the glasses. It's interesting how he just comes out and says, you know, I know it's been many years, but what helped you when you were in this situation? Because part of the concept and the idea of forgiveness inherently is that forgetfulness as well. And when you did something wrong as a Jehovah's Witness, it is amazing how it will always come up in future events. If you've done something wrong, and you're talking to elders, this is from my own personal experience, they will bring up past things that you've done wrong. If you've made the mistake of kissing a girl, oh man, what a horrible mistake that I made in the back room talking to two elders for kissing a girl. They will also talk about your reaction when you wore tight pants or a fitted suit. And how you dealt with that situation, even though that was in the past. So it's funny because the whole concept and idea is that, okay, you forgive and forget. And yet this guy is like, you know, I just want to ask, how did you get through this? Now, the whole notion of this is a little bit different because he's not bringing it up to shame him necessarily, but to draw on his experience. I feel like a more natural way that they could have gone about getting us to this point and establishing the main character is just letting him speak for himself. You don't need to have the other elder there making the intrusive questioning. That's the main problem with the whole elder concept, is they always want to ask questions that are meant to hit at a deeper level or get to some place with some type of agenda behind it. And fundamentally, if that never changes, even if they wrap the whole elder idea in a shiny new bow and say, oh no, we're so much more loving and merciful than we used to be. Well, A, that super sucks, admitting that you used to be draconian and insufferable. But B, the root problem with it is how elders will ask very intrusive questions. Anyway, just a bit of a rant here, but now let's see how our main character describes some of the things that helped him come back to the congregation.
Well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. Tina and I were pioneering together. But then our life just got complicated. Good. I need a minute. Yeah. You're doing great. drifted away from what was most important.
I guess you won't be able to.
I can't make it tonight.
Okay.
It wasn't that I left Jehovah. I just was not much of a spiritual head.
Our theme scripture for this lesson is taken from Colossians 3:14.
I know I always do this. I interrupt the flow of a Watchtower video to talk about something completely unrelated, but the prints, the wallpaper as art? What is this? Like, what actually do they have up on the walls? Like, oh yeah, let's put a beautiful piece of art. We all had an aunt or a grandparent that had this couch. This print was a couch in I don't know, it must have been like the 70s or 80s, and we all know the person. Now, no one looked at that couch with the little floral pattern on it and thought to themselves, you know what? By golly, 20 years from now, I'm going to frame that and put it on my wall at my place of worship to Jesus Christ. It makes no sense. And then I looked a little bit closer, and it appears that they even have this as some type of like wallpaper strip. So the whole concept of their decorating, the theme bringing everything together is your aunt's old stinky sofa. It is so strange. Anyway, back to whatever they were doing.
Colossians 3:14. Clothe yourselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union.
Even though I wasn't doing anything wrong. Yes. Before I knew it, years had gone by. Hey.
Oh, hi. How'd it go today?
Went all right. That was a meeting.
Good. Yeah, Angela invited some sisters over, so I'm gonna go change.
Okay, sounds good. I drifted away from what was most important, and I felt powerless to stop it.
Life is an ever-evolving thing, and things come and go out of your life all of the time. I bet if you go to your garage right now, you might have a paddleboard, and you thought, man, I'm going to get into paddleboarding. That seems real cool. I see people doing it. Seems like a good time. So you spent $1,200 on a paddleboard and $80 on a vest and $50 on a waterproof thing for your iPhone. Wow. iPhone. Anyway, your iPhone, and you used it like 3 times, and there it sat. There it sat for the last several years because you're like, yeah, that was cool for a bit, but not really interested anymore. Yeah, I bet you $100 if you went to your kitchen right now, there's some gadget or gizmo sitting in a cupboard that you haven't touched in 3 or 4 years. At first, when you got it, you used it all the time, thought it was so exciting, and man, it was the greatest thing ever. And then slowly you're like, yeah, not that fun, not that interesting, doesn't really serve that much of a purpose anymore. This is life. Now, why am I saying all this? Well, that's something we're all very familiar with. The thing that normal people aren't familiar with is when you make something your core identity to such an extreme way that it just becomes who you are. It can't be something you do. It can't be a phase in your life. A lot of times religion, for some people, they go through phases in their life where they're very religious and that is a main part of them. And then, you know, they might still believe in God, but maybe don't attack it with the same fervor or aren't as involved with various church activities after a while. It comes ebbs and flows, comes in waves. That's a natural process that most people go through. Not for Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not like a kitchen gizmo. They are not like the paddleboard. They have to be involved with Jehovah's Witness activities all the time. Always. It is an all-consuming thing. Nothing can get in the way. And so when you have that perspective, you quickly see that the real person that's hurt most by this situation is the wife. She is still huffing the glue and doing the whole Jehovah's Witness thing. And now she has to do it by herself. And this is a serious problem because now you are not going to be looking at your husband the same way. As the captain of the Geek Squad here sits on the couch watching TV and you are popping off to the Kingdom Hall, you are losing respect for him. You're losing love for him. I imagine that in situations like this, it very quickly leads to a loveless, communicationless, sexless, boring, goalless marriage where two people are just going in different directions and they're stuck. There's nothing they can do about it. There's no garage sale that you can go, well, time to get rid of the paddleboard or the pasta maker, the bread machine. And so for anyone listening to this video that is in this situation where you have left the organization or you are mentally awake, but you have a spouse that's still in and you are still together for whatever reason, my heart goes out to you. I experienced this myself. Shortly after I got married, I woke up and the only singular thing that I could think about was how to wake my wife up. Nothing entered my mind. I have an incredible ability to hyper-focus on something. You get me a task and say, hey, Wally, do this thing, and bada bing, bada boom. If my brain hones in on that, the world is dead to me until I figure that thing out. And so I was hyper-focused, just completely fixated on this, and I could not sleep. I could not think about anything else. It was an all-consuming thing. How do I wake this person up? Because the idea, just the idea of carrying on, not believing, while she just kept going to meetings and doing this, tore me apart. It blew me away. So my heart goes out to anyone that's in that situation, and I hope you're figuring things out and figuring out what's best for you, and that the situation can improve or, at least go in the direction that you as a now freedom-finding autonomous individual want it to go. But yeah, it is a very impossible situation. Anyway, just wanted to rant about that for a second, just because it's important, if you've never been a Jehovah's Witness, to understand this isn't a flowing, changing thing that, people often go through. This is a core identity. It's like I don't know if you watch the show, I call it it's not Longmire, it's Yellowstone. And the kids, they got to get the brand on them, like an actual cow brand to show their loyalty to the family. Well, this is like a brand. This is something, it goes deep. It is a symbol of who you are. And once that breaks, the person that you're married to just has an incredibly difficult time. Anyway, let's keep going.
So what changed?
I remember there was a circuit overseer's visit, and I told Tina I would try to make it.
Oh, hey, thank you for fixing that. So I hear his last talk is actually the best talk of the week.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I got you something. I will leave it right here for you. Gotta go. Love you.
Love you too.
We all know what's in the bag, right? At this point, we're all pretty confident we know. Okay, good. Now, I think that my initial reaction to this in some moods might be, why is she taking this passive-aggressive approach by offering this little gift of encouragement to come back to the meeting? Wouldn't it be more productive to have, conversations and stuff? But the little rant I went on before maybe helps highlight the difficulty of the situation and how communication, even if that's happened and you've tried, at a certain point, if it's not yielding any results, you are stuck. You are just stuck with nothing left to do. And so you might just start throwing stuff at the wall. In a desperate situation, you're like, I gotta at least try something. Maybe something will work. And so you get him a tie. I guess if it's not a tie in the bag, we'll all feel like real idiots. But we all know that it's a tie in the bag. I told you, we all knew it was going to be a tie. There was no mystery there.
Some may feel like a lost cause. They may think, I've been away too long. But is that actually the case? When a person drifts away, Jehovah does not abandon him as being beyond hope. Notice the reassurance Jehovah gives us next in Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 16.
Their favorite thing to show is people cleaning the Kingdom Hall. I swear it won't take me more than 2 or 3 minutes to put together a montage of all the time they show people cleaning a Kingdom Hall and wiping the glass. And here, this glass is dirty. Like, practice what you preach, Watchtower. You're always telling people, hey, you got to make sure you're cleaning that Kingdom Hall, wiping everything down. And yet here, wherever this is filmed at, look at this thing. It's disgusting. I'm appalled.
And personality of the God we worship, a God of order. Regular cleaning also helps protect the health of all those attending.
I'll give to you, Jehovah, the best I have to give. I'll live for you, Jehovah, as
to call her industrious.
And why we've enjoyed so many blessings together.
Commendation to our hard-working elders.
I can sing and I can answer and help to clean the Kingdom Hall.
16. The lost one I will search for, the stray I will bring back, the injured I will bandage, and the weak I will strengthen. Picture a flock of sheep grazing in a field. Somehow, while nibbling on grass, one of the sheep gets separated from the flock.
Those words in Ezekiel really touched my heart.
Those are some solid verses.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful how Jehovah never forgets those that he's drawn in.
What do you think about sharing these verses with Marcus and Paige, and maybe using it as a way to kind of see how they're really doing?
I love it. Let's do it.
All right, so what do you think? Should we just start?
Okay, so you remember the elder that was leading the meeting at the very beginning when they're like, okay, who should go on this? And then we went on this little character history moment here. Well, he's now in the background of this, and I'll play it again so we can see his reaction when this guy decides he's going to not do any overtime at Best Buy, but he's going to show up to the meeting today. And just look at his reaction.
Sheep grazing in a field. Somehow, while nibbling on grass, one of the sheep gets separated from the flock.
Those words in his...
Now, I'm no expert here in human emotions or reading people's faces. In fact, I probably have a quantifiable disability in this department. But from my analysis of what people do with their faces whenever they're thinking or feeling certain things, this guy is saying, surprised he showed up. But he makes a point to look over at the person, theoretically, it's behind the woman's hair, but sitting next to him and be like, hey, look who the cat just dragged in. Like to make a spectacle out of it.
The stray I will bring back, the injured I will bandage, and the weak I will strengthen.
Those words are there to remind us that we are precious to Jehovah. He's never going to forget about us, and he's never going to give up on us.
I mean, I get what you're trying to say with these verses, but I don't know. I don't feel like Jehovah wants me back.
It's definitely something that I struggled with too, for a period of time. In fact, that's how I felt after my first meeting back.
Everyone was so excited to see you. That talk was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That was so funny when Butch went to give you a hug. He almost knocked you over. Hey, is everything okay?
Oh yeah, I'm fine. It's just the,
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
We have to catch up.
You know we're proud.
We have got to get together. Everyone acting like there's nothing wrong. I don't think I'm ready for all this. I just don't deserve it.
Well, I'm really proud of you for coming today.
So now they're finally meeting with the couple and trying to give them their sage wisdom on speaking from his personal experience. And shockingly, me and Watchtower saw things eye to eye because, yeah, that overwhelming feeling if everyone's all hunky-dory, everything's great, and they're like, oh man, it can be a bit aggressive. It can be a lot to handle. It's like, whoa, why is everyone acting like nothing's wrong? I haven't been here for 10 years. Shouldn't you guys be more judgmental? I imagine a lot of people, if they're expecting to be like, okay, well, I'll just sit in the back and hopefully no one talks to me, and then everyone's like swarming around them, it could be a little bit too much for people. So interesting that Watchtower actually did acknowledge that. Other than that, there's only a continuity error that I can nitpick. They drove in separate vehicles to get to the meeting, and now they're driving home in the same vehicle. I guess we don't have to worry too much about that. It's just a silly, goofy little video. Anyway, but let's continue.
Hey, Scott. It's great seeing you yesterday. Hey, me and Elliot are going to be going out to the diner tonight to get some supper. You want to come with us? Let me know.
I had this whole bit about making fun of them for saying, do you want to go out to the diner to get some supper? And after I got done with that bit, I realized that that's how I talk. It's not funny.
Thanks for all this, Coop.
Oh, it's nice being together.
Yeah.
So how are you guys doing?
You know, Coop, it's nights like this that make me realize how much of a void there's been in my life. And everyone's been so kind and patient. But I just don't feel like I belong.
Well, I was thinking about you the other day, and I thought of this scripture, Psalm 68:6. Just that first part.
God gives those who are alone a home to dwell in.
You know what I love about this scripture? Not only does Jehovah know when we feel like we're alone, but he does something about it. He gives us a spiritual home. It's a place where we have friends that truly love us. Take them up on that invitation. Let Jehovah welcome you home.
So this is where Watchtower's plan of trying to instruct elders about how to try and bring people back, I think is ultimately not going to do anything or accomplish anything, because they're looking at a 2025 problem and trying to solve it the same way they would in 1985. See, in 1985, when someone sort of drifted away from the congregation, wasn't, in the middle of the congregation, hadn't been to meetings for a while, oftentimes they didn't really have a lot of ways of connecting with other people. That is all of their friends, most of their family, all their social life is tied to being a Jehovah's Witness. And if you're in the same job, people kind of know you as a witness, this guy, he was in the same job. So there wouldn't be a lot of options for you to connect with other people. You just wouldn't have a social life. So you'd live a very isolated existence. And in 2025, things are different. You always have a way of connecting with other people, and the vehicle of that is the internet. The internet is a way that you can just connect with like-minded people that have similar interests to you. Now, it doesn't mean that he is going to get on the internet and necessarily realize that, oh man, Jehovah's Witnesses are false and become an apostate overnight. But the argument I'm making is people that might have an interest outside of their spiritual beliefs. So let's just say over the last however many years he's out, like 5 years, he has some type of hobby, some things that he likes to do. It is so easy to connect with other people that might like to do similar things like that. Whether it's like, I think he doesn't work at Best Buy, it's carpentry, I think it said on his thing. So whether it's like building stuff or like creative projects like that, whether it's hiking or skiing or snowboarding or going out on ATV, snowmobiling, whatever the case is, there are infinite ways of trying to connect with other people. And that void that he's talking about, like, oh man, I really feel that void has been missing in my life. Yeah, we're social creatures. We've evolved this way. It's beneficial for us. And that void you're feeling has now it's never been an easier time to try and fill that void by meeting other people. So I don't think that Watchtower's approach to the actual problem is going to work here, because if someone isolates themselves from the congregation, it's very likely that they have just found new friends to do stuff with. And in that transition to finding new friends to do stuff with, they've probably realized that they aren't that dissimilar from their friends as Jehovah's Witnesses. Because once you have friends in the real world, you quickly realize that everyone that's not a Jehovah's Witness isn't this horrible, monstrous, drug-using, wife-beaten, beer-chugging person. They're just normal people with challenges, with experiences, with struggles, with humor, with insights. That's how it is. And when you start meeting those people, you won't really feel that void. So ultimately, I think Watchtower is approaching this in a very old man solution, old school Watchtower solution, and just trying to repackage it and rewrap it. And I don't think ultimately it's going to be effective because they're not really understanding the problem that they're facing. And I guess, hey, Watcher, if you're watching this, there's a free tip for you. That's your real problem. And if you're going to try and look to train your elders how to solve this, you should try and think about it from that perspective.
Hey, do you remember that trip, all of us up at the lake? Was that the time you tripped over your tackle box and kicked the entire cooler into the lake? And yeah, yes, I do. I do remember that. It's ridiculous. Good time. I haven't thought about that for a while. I wanted to tell you. I know Paige and I haven't been to the hall for a while. We're trying to get back into a routine. But just the idea of field service and talks, I don't know. It's a lot. Is this what it was like for you?
Yeah. For me, coming back to Jehovah, I couldn't just pick up where I left off. In a lot of ways, it really felt like I was starting over. It's hard to describe, but I felt like the closer I would get to Jehovah, the more I was consumed by regret.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Coop. How you doing, man? How you doing, man? Good.
Nice job tonight.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. We had you running with those mics.
No kidding.
That's awesome. Hey, man, I got something for you. So, Robert's heading this up. We'd love for you to assist him with this.
Okay, Coop. I can't do this.
Sure you can.
Maybe you should give this to someone better.
Someone better? What do you mean?
Better. Maybe someone who didn't just give up, let his wife serve Jehovah alone for 10 years.
Hey, man, let's go talk. You got a couple minutes?
Yeah, just give me a second.
So, Scott, do you really think Tina sees it that way?
No, this isn't an episode of the Red Green Show. Nope, we're still here. We're still in it. So they're out fishing, and he's asking him, he's telling him, man, it just really seems like a lot. It seems like it's just the meetings, the ministry, and all that stuff. Just seems like a lot. It's a little bit overwhelming, and that's for a good reason. It is a lot. On top of the other things that you are trying to do with your life, and then maybe squeeze out moments for hobbies or things that bring you joy and happiness, it is a lot to do. So anyway, that's one of the concerns. And then when he's talking with the other elder, he gives him the sign. He's like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have someone that just abandoned their wife for 10 years. So we get now a time marker here, 10 years that it was that he wasn't going to meetings. And when he asks him, well, do you think that's how Tina sees it? Yes. 10 years is a really long time. Raise your hand if you've been in a relationship for 10 years. That's a long time for you to be, your goals to be different, your lives to be different. And that is a kind of an awkward thing. It's he's still believes, but doesn't want to go to meetings. And no matter what I say, for 10 years is a long time. So I think, yeah, she might see it that way. She might see it as, why did this bozo abandon me? And then he's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll come back now. It almost is just, it sounds really pedantic and super judgmental Jehovah's Witness, but it's just a cultural thing. It's almost annoying when someone comes back because you think to yourself, well, you got to have all of the great things that I dream about in Satan's system. You got to do things that I wasn't able to do because I was too busy going out in service and preaching. And now you are showing up again and are going to get the exact same reward. So you get to put in less time and get the exact same reward for it. It doesn't seem fair. And so a lot of times people will have that reaction.
No, but I let her down in so many ways. And I mean, yeah, now I'm getting back on my feet again, but when I look back.
Looking back, it could serve a purpose. But think about what Jehovah wants you to focus on now. Not on what you did, but on what you're doing.
That's easy to say. But when I think about all those years Tina and I could have been serving Jehovah together, those years are gone.
You know, those feelings, totally understandable. But here's how Jehovah feels. 1 John 3, 19 and 20. Do you mind reading that? Just start there at the middle of verse 19.
And we will assure our hearts before him regarding whatever our hearts may condemn us in. Because God is greater than our hearts and knows all things.
God is greater than our hearts. He wants you to move forward. He promises to help you move forward. And the rest of us, we're here to help too. And as for those lost years, you both have forever to serve Jehovah. You'll make it up.
I gave those brothers one reason after another to give up on me. And Marcus, honestly, at times I gave up on myself. But Jehovah never gave up on me. And he hasn't given up on you and Paige either. I know he hasn't.
Man, you don't know how much that means, Scott. Thank you.
Would you and Paige be up for another visit?
That'd be great.
Hey, whoa. I got it.
Oh, man. You still remember how to do this?
Oh, just do your job. Get the net. Hang on. Hang on. That's a largemouth bass.
Yeah, no, that's... What is that? Seaweed. Good job.
So that concludes this saga and this video. I do always find it intriguing to take a look inside how Watchtower is dealing with some of their problems, what they're doing, and what they think the solution's going to be. So not lambasting people, not trying to put them under the microscope and asking them a billion questions about if they've done anything questionable that might merit some type of judicial committee. But hey, why don't we invite them to a party first, and then we'll see if we can get them back to the Kingdom Hall. That seems like a bit of a shift, in my opinion. I can see them, hey, well, come to meetings after you've been coming to meetings for a while, then getting invited to just a regular old party or something like that. So maybe that's like the big kind of shift that's happening, change. Maybe we can't even really say that these days because Watchtower just does little tiny subtle things. But yeah, anyway, I have ranted way too long about this random video, but hopefully you guys found this interesting. If you did, don't forget to drop a like on the video. Comment down below that I'm a goober and you think my takes are terrible, because I think that's funny, and sometimes my takes are terrible, and I am a goober, so it would be accurate as well. Anyway, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And you better have a good ass day.